What's the fastest a city person learned why country folks do things a certain way? Our family had been farming on our land for 3 generations when new houses went up behind us, and it only took about 2 weeks for our new neighbors to show up on the porch complaining about our dogs. They bark all night long and we can't sleep, the wife said. Coyotes, my dad said. Like that should explain everything. She clearly did not get it. Okay, but can you make them stop? My dad twisted the end of his mustache. No, the dogs keep the coyotes away from our chickens. They need to bark to do their job. She blinked at him. Right, but the barking is the problem, so I need you to fix it or I'm calling the county. We tried to be neighborly. Before we could even figure out what to do about the dogs, our neighbors were back to complain about our screen door slamming because it was startling them while they were trying to enjoy their patio. So we started using the back entrance. The next week they came back about the dogs, and we finally caved and started bringing them inside after dark. They whined and scratched at the back door until sunrise, and when I walked the fence line that Saturday, I noticed coyote tracks in the mud closer to our chicken coop than I had ever seen them before. That week I heard coyotes howling at night, and they sounded closer than they ever had when the dogs were out. Our neighbors showed up again with a new problem. The smell of hay is triggering my allergies, and I need you to move it, the wife said. So my dad and I spent an entire weekend hauling bales to the far end of the property in 90-degree heat, while our neighbors watched from lawn chairs on their brand new deck. Days later, I spotted a coyote standing in broad daylight near the fence line staring at our coop, and my dad just shook his head when he saw it. That same week, I noticed our neighbors building a little chicken coop of their own, painted barn red with a cute little weather vane on top. And the next week, a delivery truck showed up with a crate of fancy heritage breed chickens. The wife posted pictures online about farm fresh eggs and country living, and I watched her scatter feed for her pretty chickens in her sundress, and wondered if she had any idea what was out there in the dark. Then our neighbors showed up again about our old rooster crowing at dawn. That rooster has to go because we didn't move to the country to be woken up by farm animals, the wife said. My dad had owned that rooster for 9 years, and I watched something in his face change as he stood there listening to these people who had been here for 2 months tell him his animal had to go. He closed the door without saying a word and walked straight to the phone and called the county. I stood there while my dad talked to the county and then went quiet for a long time listening to the answer. When he hung up, he looked at me. Zoned agricultural for 80 years, no noise ordinances apply, and every single thing we've done has been voluntary. He shook his head slowly. We're done. That night, the dogs went back outside where they belonged, and they barked at the darkness until dawn, and we let them. A few mornings later, I woke up to screaming from next door, and my whole family walked out to the fence line to see what had happened. There were feathers everywhere, scattered across the lawn like someone had ripped open a pillow. The cute little barn red coop had been torn open from the side like it was made of cardboard, and there was blood on the white trim and deep scratch marks gouged into the door, and not a single fancy heritage chicken left alive. The wife was standing in her yard in her bathrobe with her hands over her mouth. Our neighbor came storming across her yard toward the fence with mascara running down her face, screaming, "You let this happen? You did this on purpose? And I am going to sue you for everything you have." My dad stood there with his hands in his pockets. She screamed, "I'm calling the sheriff and you're going to pay for every single chicken because I know people and you have no idea who you're dealing with." My dad didn't move. Her husband jogged up behind her and tried to put a hand on her shoulder, and she shook him off and screamed, "You are a horrible person and your whole family is horrible, and I'm going to make sure everyone in this county knows what kind of neighbors you are." My dad looked at her for a long moment, then turned and gestured toward our coop sitting quiet and untouched with its hardware cloth buried a foot underground and its heavy gauge wire and its door that actually latched. Our chickens were pecking at the ground without a care in the world, and the dogs sat on the porch watching with their heads tilted. My dad looked back at her and she was shaking now, and she screamed, "Say something!" Our old rooster hopped up on a fence post and crowed so loud it echoed off the hills, and my dad waited for the sound to fade before he looked at her torn apart decorative shed and then back at her. "Get a dog." Her face went blank. Her husband closed his eyes. Her daughter was standing on their back deck in her pajamas sobbing. What happened to the chickens? Our neighbors did get a dog about a month later, a Chihuahua named Princess who barked at everything and protected nothing, and I don't think that's what Dad meant.